Hi, welcome once again. I'm here tonight with my dear friend, Kristen Huetz, one of our consultants. And we're going to be speaking tonight about how your spirit comes through. And if you think that I'm going to be able to tell you how your spirit comes through, you'd probably be better off watching something else on TV. I cannot tell you how your spirit comes through. I can tell you how mine does. Kristen can share with you how hers does. And I can also share with you the work that's involved in enabling one to come through. I had a wonderful conversation with Jorge, one of our consultants the other day, about the notion of being culture bound, that we all grow up within a culture, the subculture of the neighborhoods, the kind of family culture, any kind of extended family culture, part of the country, part of the world. We all grow up with a culture, and the culture kind of informs us about what the world is like and what's to be valued and how to behave. And so it's the part of our outer selves information. And we get bound in there unless if we do not allow our own spirit to come through. And as my spirit comes through the layers and levels of processing and programming and conditioning that we all go through, as yours does, step one is pay attention. What's happening? What are you experiencing? Most simple terms, what's lifting your spirits? What's putting your spirit down? What does that mean to you, your spirit? You know, in writing this description, I purposefully, in the first sentence, said life spirit, because some people would think, well, spirit, and they go into all kinds of ideas about what may be being presented tonight. What we are presenting is two people in a dialogue, sharing their own experiences in learning about this mystery of life. Our lives are surrounded by mystery. Where we come from, where we go to, what happens all around us in between, why things happen, coincidences, and so on and so forth. And in the world's wisdom traditions, including religions, they all have a certain way of perceiving it. And in the depths of most of them, you can find a real common ground. But we live at a time where we get so pulled into the outside surface differences and get caught up in the differences that we lose sight of the common ground. The common ground, we're here on earth and we are living our lives with a living spirit that yearns to come through. And that living spirit is good. It is putting good, goes by different names, whatever you want to call it. Love is a good one, pretty much encompasses everything. So this is how a dialogue begins. Like two friends sitting down and one sharing feelings, thoughts, perceptions, and the other taking it wherever they will. And hopefully for those watching and listening, you will pick up a pearl, or you'll have a thought, or you'll think about something. And you may begin, hopefully, to notice more how your own spirit comes through.
Listening to all of this, I'm coming off of such a busy, busy day and such a busy time in my life with my family, my extended family. There's a very interesting juxtaposition happening as my aunt transitions into whatever comes after this, and she gets closer and closer. And my niece, who I've spoken of so many times, is fighting for her life. There are moments of, heartache and moments of joy and moments of hope and moments of letting go. And all of this combined with attempting to go through life on a daily basis during a pandemic threatens to overwhelm not just me, but others in my family, and threatens to drag us down. And I guess each one of us has to make choices as to how we will move through and how we will use this life spirit or allow it to flow through us. And I've had a lot of conversations with different people coming from different viewpoints about empathy and turning empathy into action. And for me, empathy it has in many times during my life threatened to overwhelm me. I tend to be extremely sensitive, and it's as if I can feel what someone else is feeling, and I feel almost broken by it at times. But rather than allow myself to become broken, I realized through these different opportunities and these different moments in my life that if I could turn that empathy into some sort of action, not only was I able to be of service, but I was able to not be pulled down by what was going on around me. And I still have my moments where, I wonder if I'm going to get pulled under, but if I just continually think, well, how can I help? What can I do to help them, which helps me? And then you have that sort of symbiotic relationship, and it doesn't require any thanks, any gratitude, any reciprocation. It doesn't, because it is in and of itself a reciprocation, if that makes sense.
That's beautifully said. I mean, you're back to the we. You said we, and you started speaking, you were saying we. There's something about when we're connected, because that's what I believe the spirit is all about. I mean, we talk about, I think it was Emerson who said that on the way to your spirit, what was the spirit or soul that he used? I forget. But the notion being that, on the way to soul, I think it was. On the way to your soul, yes, it was. On the way to your soul, the closer you get to your soul, the more you realize you're arriving at our soul. And the soul like a container for the spirit. And what is the spirit? When you're experiencing it, you feel more alive, and you feel all the words that various traditions put to it. You feel joy, love, compassion. You feel a sense of justice and fairness and righteousness. You feel courage. But there's an entry into life in a much more fuller way than often we become compressed into. You're supposed to do this, do that, men are this, women are that, these colored people, those colored people, all these things, old, young, all these things get pressed in. And I cannot help but continue to share the gift it's been to me with having my granddaughter be with us for over 6 months now. And arriving here 6 months ago and spending time with her on a daily basis and hearing her, watching her observations, her questioning. It is just magnificent to watch this beautiful spirit coming through. Creativity, there's no end to it. Joy down to her bones. Love and compassion for an injured, even if she sees a feather, she wants to know what had to fall off the bird, and then did it hurt? Imagine if we were able to touch that level within ourselves, that kind of interconnectedness, that kind of love, and yet function as an adult in the world. And what world are you functioning in? Well, many of your choices have created this, and also chance has created this. And can you bring more of your spirit up and out and into your world to give you a little more wiggle room, to enable you to experience more of the connectedness of community within a world where communities have become so disconnected, and there's so much energy to keep connecting them, but yet there are people coming through. Their spirits are coming through, and they're connecting in new and novel ways. And so, yeah, each of us has our own individual work and job to do in understanding how our own individual spirits come through. And from my own experience, I can only say that it has changed during different phases and periods of my life, because our lives are interconnected, and the phases of my life are also intermixed with the phases of life of the other people that are part of my life, and people who come in and people who go out, and the sharing of grief when the life and the person is moving in a way that's just so upsetting to the whole balance of your life, and to be able to share it as opposed to be alone with it. And in my own experiences of times like that, there was something really beautiful about the fact that this was being shared. The deep grief and hurt was being shared. And certainly saw more of that when I was younger than as I've grown, and people become more conditioned and socialized. Men aren't supposed to cry. Women, if they cry, show weakness, and all these crazy things that are now starting to dissipate, hopefully. And people are becoming more centered in such a way that their spirit is able to come through more, as I see it.
My first thought was when you were describing Ella's curiosity, and the way that curiosity does come through as a form of empathy. And I do think that we are born naturally empathetic, but I also think it needs to be practiced. And the beauty of you sitting with her and discussing where that feather came from, instead of just saying, oh, that's dirty, don't touch it. There's, addressing that, like, talking about the bird and whether or not that bird felt pain. The fact that she thought that is so touching and beautiful, but to have somebody that she can talk with about that helps this is her practice. This is her early practice in empathy, because it's already there, but it gives her the opportunity to keep practicing that. And it's so important. And it's so interesting right now with my aunt and my niece. I keep thinking about that idea of the fact that we are all one soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. And I suppose different cultures and different religions might view this as one coming in and one going out, or they're kind of happening together.
Right.
I mean, Sophie's already here. My niece is already here, but she is fighting. Yeah. And there was, a few weeks ago, it was very touch and go. And, I think it helps me and others to believe that they're somewhere where we can't touch it, somewhere intangible, I suppose. There's something happening. Deep down in their spirits that the rest of us aren't privy to, because they're in an in-between state, both of them. They have had moments, I should say, of in-between states. My aunt is definitely in a place where she is not sharing the same world with us. And I don't know what happens after this, but I know that she's going somewhere. The part that makes her. And Sophie went through a period where she was definitely not here with us, and she is kind of living in a different world, because she just spent the last over 2 months in a hospital room. And for some of that, she was, we didn't know what was going to happen to her. So I like to believe that oneness helped them, is helping both of them move to whatever comes next for both of them.
Yes. Beautiful. I mean, life is a mystery. It's a mystery. What imagination. I remember reading something many years ago about how there were people that were really up against there becoming something called television. They said it's bad enough that they're not reading a story, but now they're hearing through the radio with someone doing the parts. It's knocking out the imagination. That when you're reading, you and I could read the same book, and yet we'll have a different picture, perhaps, of the main character kind of thing. It goes with your own imagination. At the same time, yes, you need to get to school at time, and you need to get the grades, and you need to do that. You need to learn how to live in the world, but to never compress your imagination. Imagine it, and then decide, is this something I really want to pour my time and energy into? Because there are all kinds of things we can imagine. And again, where does that come from? This creative source. Words again that are applied to the spirit. God the creator. Old Testament God was more of like an angry father. New Testament God, more, loving, compassionate. You see reflections of this in other religions at times, but here we are now, today, each of us is individual people with a life spirit that came in when we were born and is here with us now. And at some point, for everyone sitting here conscious or lying down listening and connecting with this, your spirit will move on as mine will. Where does it come from? Where does it go to? All kinds of ways that can be described. But we're going somewhere. And yet there's a part of us that has always been, at least as far as we're conscious of. And here and now, what can we do in this world with all its cultures and all its pressures, but to find the good in them and to celebrate them. To celebrate them. And to see how wonderful it is to live within the culture that you're living in, whether it's the one you were born to or the one that you've transitioned into. And this day and age where everything is getting so intermixed with cultures and languages, personally, I think it's a beautiful thing. But there are others who say, no, we need to keep the differences, which are up on the surface. We need to keep those in our mind, as opposed to the common connectedness, do unto others. But what about bad people? My granddaughter was saying the other day, we were playing a game, and she likes me to be El Guapo from the Three Amigos. So I'm being El Guapo. And we get into these little conversations about right and wrong and good and bad and how you deal with negative energy and so on. And, I said to her that, you always want to understand that if a person is being nasty and mean, it's because something happened to them. They didn't have the kind of love that good people have. So how can you maybe help this person? After you're protected that this person isn't going to hurt you. I said, it's like germs. How do we, because she understands there's germs around now. So how do we keep the germs away? We have to be real strong and eat good food and sleep and drink water and we'll do the things we're supposed to do, social distance, to keep the negative from infiltrating us. And in the meantime, we need to be doing good things, helping people and making phone calls and doing things so people don't feel lonely and putting good into the world in a simple way. As a child, which in my experience is the very same thing for us as grown-ups. And as Jesus said in the Bible, you'll learn from the children.
Yeah, I think a lot about these various topics, and I noticed that a lot of people I have been talking to lately about empathy and action, and empathy without action, and how that, I don't know, for me anyway, it kind of leads to a more selfish, if that's the right word, thought pattern. It doesn't give me the opportunity to allow my life spirit to move through me. It sort of stifles. So when I do hear often about how life does this to me, how hard it is, things are so hard, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. And it is difficult. And there is sorrow in life. But if I take my own feelings of sorrow and I find a way to, again, be of service rather than only think about how I'm affected, it changes my perspective on the whole situation. I won't say I don't experience sorrow still. I do. But at the same time, I feel if I'm active in some way in helping, it just sort of helps me as well. You know, again, that whole we are working together as one spirit idea.
Have you always been this strong?
No, and not even close. And that's another interesting thing to me as you were talking about that. The people I listen to now who are still where I was 20, 30 years ago, I have to remember that, and I have to be patient. It's sort of like when you're with a very young child and they're having, I was recently with a very young child who just was exhausted and was a little bit thrown off because they were in a new environment where they were with people they didn't know very well, you know, all the things that might throw a child off. And the child started to cry, but it wasn't just sadness, it was anger, defiance. And it would have been very easy for me or anybody in that situation to get frustrated. But rather, if we try to put ourselves in that child's shoes, that person's shoes, and say, okay, this person still has a long way to go. And if I'm gentle and I'm loving and empathetic in that situation, maybe I can help guide their life spirit through and help them get to a point where they, you know, they still feel loved, even though they're, like you said, you know, you tell Ella, yeah, bad people exist, but it's not because they are innately bad. It's because they and somebody else might have fed their bad wolf. Right. If I can go back to that story, you know, they didn't receive what they needed. But if we can sort of, reach out in whatever way we can, even if it's just feeling, imagining whatever this bad person is as a child and what they didn't get and what we wish they had gotten and how they could be different had they received
spirit coming through imaginatively and creatively to create another image that enables you to relate more kindly to that person. And I've mentioned in a few of these videos that, you know, what I learned from the Japanese martial art of Aikido, and at this point I know very little of the moves anymore, but the philosophy of it was that when there is someone attacking you or there's negative energy coming toward you, it's because that other person is out of balance. And your job is to help restore balance and harmony. And what you learned in Aikido is that initially, you're there just to restore balance. And if your life is being threatened, then you start to notch it up incrementally, very, very, very slowly, that you never lose your balance, but you do not allow harm to happen to you. And, you know, knowing that it was an option to go all the way to the very end, and we were really trying to stop the person from hurting you by physically hurting them. It struck me that when I grew up, it was sort of the opposite. It was like someone comes at you, you attack them so hard that they never want to come after you again. And I could never really do that. I was fortunate to have people in my family who were boxers, and in those days got scholarships to Syracuse University, and they became doctors and lawyers. That taught me how to box. But when I would box, I would only be doing it to sort of keep harm from me and to score the kind of points I needed to win. And when I would see people do that, whether it was in a ring like the boys' club or in the streets sometimes, there was people who would go over the line, and other people would begin to say, that's enough, that's enough. And, I would always think, why does anyone have to tell that person that's enough? You know when the person is no longer of harm, but it's a different approach to life that says, I want to bring more balance, more harmony, more peace, which is the spirit. I want to bring more peace to the situation. I want to bring more joy to the situation. Now, certainly, if I could be that way 24/7, that would be wonderful. My wife and my kids would love it. But that's not the way it is. Sometimes you're tired, you're moody, you look grumpy, whatever. I need to straighten myself out before I put myself in there with other people. So I'll go do what I need to do, whether it's go to sleep or read a book or do a workout, or just go for a walk or just meditate or just sit in the yard, just to clear the mind or calm the emotions or tend to the body to put it back in better balance. And when we do that, we naturally come to a place of goodness. When the mind is open and clear, the emotions are calm and relaxed, and the body is at peace and relaxed, you fall into what arises is this feeling of, this is really nice. And with that can come gratitude, appreciation and gratitude, compassion, a sense of connectedness, we-ness, oneness. So we are 1/2 hour, and Melissa reminded me that we write these up at 6:30 to 7. So certainly we can continue for a couple of minutes, but why don't you? Well, you know what, Kristen, before you do, let me just read these 3 things, because I think these 3 points are really good to keep in mind. And this is the first line of our write-up. From the time our life spirit enters by birth, goes through life and departs by death, it asks only 3 things. 1, to be nurtured and cared for by ourselves and loving others. To be nurtured. How do you nurture your own spirit? Well, you get out of its way and you give it what it needs, which is connection, whether it's to people or nature or whatever. But you clear your mind, relax your body, calm your mind. That's what you do to nurture it. And cared for by others, having others who see it, recognize it, welcome it, call it forth, inspire it, encourage it. Number 2, to be strengthened and made skillful by ongoing practice. That's what will enable it to become more a part of your life. Practice. Remember, you're always practicing. Either you're practicing being at your best or you're practicing not being at your best. But we're always practicing. And from the growing of new neural synapses to the changing of behaviors, however level you want to look at it, we are in constant change. And you can be part of that change intentionally. And 3, to be gracefully expressed in ways that are truthful, kind, and helpful. Truthful, kind, and helpful. Many times we're conditioned to just be reactive, say what you need to say, and that's my truth, that's honest, that's my feelings. Is it kind? And so you have the truth, find a way to make it kind. And then also take a look and see, will it be helpful? Will this serve in any way? If not, put it aside. There's other things you can do. So I will leave with that. And Kristen, I'll give you the last few minutes here to wrap this up in a pretty bow.
I think so much about kindness and helpfulness as I get older. It means so much more to me than it did as a young person. And I don't know if this is typical, but certainly I thought about me. I thought about me a lot and what would make me happy and what things made me sad and what happened to me. And the older I get, the less fulfilling that attitude toward life feels for me. And just the recognition of when I'm feeling cranky or whatever is part of my practice. Because certainly, like you said, I cannot, nothing is perfect. I'm not perfect, neither is anyone else. And I certainly aim for my best all the time, but I'm not at my best 24/7. I'm just not. I'm a human being. And I have moments where I'm overtired, or maybe I ate something junky, or I didn't get enough sleep and I'm cranky. But at this point in my life, I'm better equipped to say, this is not the real deepest part of who I am. This is the external crankiness because of whatever these reasons are. So let me take care of myself so I am in a better position to help the people around me, to be of service to those that I love. And so we can live in harmony,
right,
and be more peaceful with one another. It's just this new way, and I shouldn't say new, I've been practicing this for a long time now, but the older version of who I am, I just like her a lot better.
You had more to do with that one.
Yes, I've had a lot more to do with that one. It took work. And again, this is a conversation I had with someone not too long ago. Like, this is not something that happened because of one conversation. This took all the ideas that, this person can say, but I know all that stuff already. Intellectually, I knew a lot of those things too. Putting them into practice was a completely different animal. And I have to. The turning
point is when we go from reading it and learning it and studying it and hearing people say it to when you start to notice something in yourself that kind of matches some of that. And then the real teacher is there, your own life experiences. That's
exactly it. Putting it into practice versus knowing things on an intellectual level. I know a lot of things on an intellectual level, but it's very different when I actually practice it actively. Or, like you said, you read enough about it and then it sort of starts to happen. And then but I still feel like I have to be an active participant. It doesn't magically happen. I need to be an active participant in my own growth, and my own growth needs to continue every single day for the rest of my life and whatever comes next, I hope.
Exactly. Right. And, I think it was Abraham Maslow, a noted American psychologist, who said that, it's when we begin to realize that we grow and we evolve and we move and we become, that life really begins. Because many people assume, well, this is who I am. How many people have I heard say, well, I can't change, this is who I am. Well, geez, that's a shame, because, the changes one can go through in life, that you are the one now that's creating more of who you want to be, the kind of person you want to be. And you want to be it because it's who you truly are on the inside. That you say, you can even say, I like myself. I love things about myself. A lot of things about myself I don't like. We all have that, and that's fine. That's the stuff you work on from the part of you that and when you say loves yourself, it's not like the love is of you. It's like you love your experience of being alive. You love the feeling of life, and you realize it's all you. It's all your life. It's all your spirit.
And that self-love isn't only about me. It's about all of us. As we keep saying, we are not so separate as we might imagine. Right. We are one. So if I can practice self-love, I am practicing loving others as well. Exactly. It's just no longer beating up on me.
Exactly. And it's the logo of the center is a spiral emerging out of a box. And the spiral has no real beginning or end. But it's something, it's an experience. When I feel my spirit coming through, I feel my spirit coming through. And I can stop and reflect afterwards, because while it's happening, I don't want to get thinky. I want to experience it, and afterwards can think back, wow, what conditions came about to enable that to come forward? Conditions in my own body, mind, emotions, and conditions in the people, places, things around me. And Thomas More, who wrote the book Care of the Soul, I was looking for this quote the other day. I wish I could remember where I found it in one of his books. And he said, if it were up to him to write the DSM, which is the psychological statistical manual that categorizes all the psychological dysfunction, he said, I would put one in there that to me is the one full diagnostic condition, which he called psychological modernism, and the uncritical acceptance of everything that's going on around you. And I thought, how brilliant. The uncritical acceptance of everything that's going on around you. That's culture bound. You're bound, and well, this is what everybody says and does. Rather than, we all have a culture, but we need not be bound by the culture. We should let it, like, again, the logo of the center, the top and right side of the box is gone, and you have the bottom and the side. You need a structure. You need some frame of reference culturally, but you expand beyond that. And so that you can even move into other cultures if you can.
And celebrate that.
Yeah, and one of our consultants, I made it very clear in the very beginning that, as we come together and work together, I want everyone to be as professional as they possibly can with everyone, but never hold yourself holier than thou. Back to Maslow, him also saying that the biggest disservice one person does for another is when they hold themselves up as perfect, that they'd never have a problem, everything is taken care of, and so on and so forth. Because immediately that person then feels they've got to be perfect, and they're never going to be like that person, or maybe they're going to try to be like that person who never gets angry, never gets sad, never grieves, never goes off. But to know that, we all are working to be in not a self-centered position, but a life-centered position, which we're always working to hold it loosely in a balance. You can't make it rigid. You have to be able to go with what's going on. We hope everyone takes real good care of themselves. And I know I speak for Kristen when I say that we are so indebted and so grateful to all the people who are helping us to be able to remain healthy and be well. So do your best, come through, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.